The abandoned warrior. The battlefield lay in ruin. Smoke curled into the blood-red sky, the stench of burnt metal and scorched flesh thick in the air. Silence stretched across the war-torn valley, broken only by the distant crackle of fire and the occasional groan of the dying. Captain Daniel Carter moved carefully through the wreckage, his boots crunching over shattered armor and broken weapons. The battle between humans and Zorathians had been brutal. Thousands had fallen, but war didn't care about the dead. It only left behind ruins and regret. Daniel wiped the sweat from his brow, scanning the destruction for survivors. Most were beyond saving. A few human soldiers limped toward medical teams in the distance, but there was no sign of movement from the alien forces. The Zorathians, feared warriors, towering and strong, had been crushed, or so he thought. A faint, ragged breath, a whisper of movement beneath the rubble. Daniel's eyes locked onto the source, a massive Zorathian warrior, trapped under the wreckage of a fallen dropship. His armor was cracked, his deep blue skin smeared with dark blood. One of his arms was twisted unnaturally, his legs motionless. Commander Ralzek. Daniel recognized him instantly, the infamous Zorathian warlord, the monster who had led countless battles against humans, the one soldiers feared. But now, Ralzek was powerless. Abandoned, left to die. Daniel hesitated. This alien had killed so many of his people. Should he really help? Then he noticed something strange. Zorathian troops had passed through here, but none had stopped. They had left their commander behind. "Why, Captain?" a voice called out. Sergeant Mills, one of Daniel's men, jogged toward him. No point in wasting time on that one. He's dead weight. Daniel clenched his jaw. Dead weight. Ralzek's dark eyes met his. There was no fear, no plea for mercy, only quiet acceptance of his fate. Daniel exhaled slowly. He had seen enough death. Today. Enough warriors discarded like broken weapons. Human or not, no soldier deserved to be left behind. No, Daniel said firmly. I'm not leaving him. Mills frowned. Captain, are you serious? He's the enemy. A warrior is a warrior, Daniel muttered, gripping the edge of the wreckage. And warriors don't leave their own behind. With a deep breath, he pulled. Metal groaned. The weight shifted. Bit by bit, Daniel freed the Zorathian, dragging his heavy form from beneath the wreckage. Ralzek winced, his breathing shallow. He was in bad shape. If Daniel didn't act fast, the warrior wouldn't last long. And then, a sharp beep, a blinking red light. Daniel's head snapped up. His blood ran cold. A drone. Small, hovering, armed, watching, scanning. And it wasn't human. His heart pounded. If the enemy was still out there, they had just found their target. He had just made himself a target. The drone's sensor flared bright red. Incoming danger. Daniel tightened his grip on his rifle. They weren't alone anymore. Duri. Escape from death. The drone's red light pulsed, scanning the battlefield with eerie precision. Daniel had seconds to act. Without hesitation, he hoisted Ralzek over his shoulder. The Zorathian was heavy, his thick armor pressing down on Daniel like dead weight. But there was no choice. Move or die. Daniel sprinted through the wreckage, weaving between twisted metal and shattered ground. The battlefield was eerily silent now, except for the faint hum of drones circling overhead. Ralzek groaned weakly. You should not be doing this, human. Daniel ignored him. Save your breath. Behind them, the drone let out a sharp mechanical screech. It had locked onto their movement. More were coming. Daniel cursed under his breath. If the drones alerted enemy forces, they were dead. He needed cover. Fast. Then, he spotted it. Half buried in rubble, an old Zorathian bunker loomed ahead. Its thick metal walls were scorched from past battles, but it was intact. It might just be their best chance. With the last of his strength, Daniel pushed forward, sliding into the bunker's entrance, just as a laser blast scorched the ground behind him. Safe. For now. Inside, the air was stale, the dim light flickering. Dust covered the consoles and the smell of decay hung in the air. Daniel set Ralzek down against a wall, breathing heavily. The Zerathian's face was twisted in pain, but his eyes remained sharp. You should not have risked yourself for me. Daniel rolled his shoulders, shaking off exhaustion. Yeah, well, I make bad decisions sometimes. Ralzek chuckled, a deep, rough sound, before coughing. You do not understand this bunker. Something in his tone made Daniel pause. What about it? Ralzek's expression darkened. It is not safe. Before Daniel could respond, a new sound echoed through the bunker. Footsteps. Heavy. Approaching fast. Daniel's heart pounded. They weren't alone. He reached for his rifle. The bunker had seemed abandoned, but now shadows moved in the dark corners. Ralzek's voice was barely a whisper. A patrol. They are coming. Daniel's grip tightened on his weapon. Stay hidden or fight back. Before he could decide, a metallic screech tore through the silence. A mechanical hunter drone had locked onto their location. The impossible alliance. The mechanical hunter drone lunged forward, its metal limbs clicking as it locked onto Daniel's position. A sharp red laser pulsed from its eyes, scanning for a perfect kill shot. Daniel didn't hesitate. He raised his rifle and fired. Bang, bang, bang. The first shot struck the drone's sensor, making it glitch. The second ricocheted off its armor. The third hit a weak point in its joint, causing it to stumble. But the drone wasn't finished. It whirred violently, adjusting its targeting system. Before it could fire back, Daniel threw himself forward, slamming his combat knife deep into its exposed wiring. Sparks flew as the drone twitched, its metal frame convulsing before collapsing into a pile of scrap. Victory. But at a cost. Daniel staggered, clutching his side. A sharp pain burned through his ribs. He was hit. The drone's last shot had grazed him, leaving a deep gash. Blood seeped through his uniform. Ralzek watched, breathing heavily. You are injured. Daniel winced but forced himself to stand. Yeah, no thanks to you. The Zerathian warrior huffed. I told you. This bunker was not safe. Daniel sighed, kneeling beside him. Ralzek was still in bad shape, his body barely functioning. He needed medical help. They both did. All right, Daniel grumbled. Where's the nearest supply station? Ralzek hesitated. His people had abandoned him. Should he really help a human? But then he saw the blood on Daniel's hands. Daniel had saved his life even at his own risk. The Zerathian warrior finally nodded. There is an outpost, hidden, a day's walk from here. Daniel tightened his grip on his rifle. Then, we better start moving. The journey begins. Daniel helped Ralzek onto his feet. The alien gritted his teeth, refusing to show weakness. They moved cautiously through the wreckage, avoiding patrols and scanning drones. Hours passed. The silence between them was thick with tension. Finally, Ralzek broke it. Why did you save me? Daniel glanced at him. Because I don't leave people behind. Ralzek scoffed. I am not your people. Daniel smirked. No, but you were left to die. Just like a lot of good soldiers in this war. Doesn't sit right with me. Ralzek said nothing. Humans were strange. But deep inside something shifted. For the first time, he saw Daniel as more than just an enemy. Tensions. Rise night fell. They reached a safe spot, a collapsed structure with enough cover to rest. Daniel wrapped a cloth around his wound. It wasn't deep, but it burned. Ralzek, despite his injuries, stared at him with a hardened gaze. You are foolish, the alien muttered. Risking your life for a warrior who would have killed you in battle. Daniel leaned back, exhausted. Yeah, well, maybe I like making bad choices. Ralzek narrowed his eyes. You truly believe in this honor you speak of? Daniel met his gaze. I do. For the first time in his life, Ralzek didn't know how to respond. Before he could say anything, a loud beep shattered the silence. Daniel and Ralzek froze. Small device on the ground blinking red. A distress beacon, accidentally activated. Both human and Zarathian forces would see the signal, and they were coming straight for them. Hunted by both sides, the distress beacon's red light pulsed in the darkness, a silent warning that death was coming. Daniel smashed the beacon under his boot, but it was too late. The signal had already been sent. Ralzek's jaw tightened. "You just painted a target on both our backs." Daniel wiped sweat from his brow. "Wasn't me. Must have been hidden under the rubble, but that doesn't matter now." He reloaded his rifle. "We need to move. Fast." Two armies were now hunting them. The Zarathians wanted Ralzek dead. He had seen something, a truth they were willing to kill him for. The humans believed Daniel had betrayed them. A soldier choosing to save the enemy? They would assume he was a traitor. Now neither side would hesitate to shoot them on sight. The chase begins. The night was eerily quiet. Too quiet. Daniel and Ralzek moved cautiously through the ruins using shadows for cover. A distant hum broke the silence. Drones. The enemy was closing in. Daniel crouched behind a broken wall, gripping his rifle. Ralzek lay low beside him, his breathing shallow but steady. The Zarathian warrior narrowed his eyes. "I can hear them. 10, maybe more." Daniel cursed under his breath. They were surrounded. Then, a voice echoed through the ruins. "Daniel Carter. Come out now." Daniel's heart sank. It was Captain Reynolds, his old commander. Daniel peeked over the wall. In the distance, human soldiers spread out in formation, rifles ready, and behind them, Zarathian hunters. Two enemy squads, both searching for the same prey. Ralzek's fingers twitched. "If they find us, they will not ask questions." Daniel nodded. "Which means we can't let them." The fight for survival. Ralzek looked at Daniel, then at the enemy forces. "I cannot fight, my body is weak." Daniel smirked. "Then it's a good thing I'm here." He grabbed a broken pipe, tossed it into the ruins ahead. Clang. Instantly, gunfire erupted. The humans and Zarathians reacted at the same time, shooting toward the noise. Confusion. Chaos. Daniel used the moment to slip past the patrol, dragging Ralzek with him. "Clever," Ralzek muttered. "Stick with me," Daniel whispered. "I have a lot more bad ideas." They crept through the wreckage, avoiding the crossfire. Every second counted. But just as they reached an open clearing, a deafening roar split the sky. The warship arrives. A massive warship descended from the clouds, its engines rumbling like thunder. Daniel froze. Zarathian warships were feared across the galaxy. But this was different. The markings on its hull were unfamiliar. Neither human nor Zarathian. Ralzek's expression darkened. "That is not one of ours." Daniel tightened his grip on his rifle. If it wasn't human, and it wasn't Zarathian, then who the hell did it belong to? A bright blue spotlight beamed down, scanning the area. Daniel and Ralzek dove for cover. The ship was searching for something, or someone. Ralzek clenched his fists. "I have a feeling this just got worse." Daniel exhaled slowly. "Yeah. No kidding." The secret weapon, the massive warship, loomed above, its searchlight sweeping the ruins below. Daniel and Ralzek remained hidden, barely breathing. Then the ship's engines roared and it slowly moved away. Daniel exhaled. That was close. Ralzek, however, wasn't relieved. His expression was dark, his mind elsewhere. Daniel noticed. "What is it?" Ralzek didn't answer immediately. His hands clenched into fists. His people had abandoned him. Now a mysterious warship had arrived. None of it was a coincidence. Finally he spoke. "You do not understand, human. This war is a lie." Daniel frowned. "What do you mean?" Ralzek took a deep breath. It was time for the truth. The hidden enemy. Ralzek's voice was heavy with regret. The war between our species, it was never about territory. Never about survival. It was planned, engineered, manipulated. Daniel's stomach twisted. By who? Ralzek hesitated, then growled. A third faction. An unknown force that neither humans nor Zarathians truly understand. They work in the shadows, pulling the strings. Daniel narrowed his eyes. And you know this because... Ralzek's fists tightened. Because I was part of the command council. I saw the classified reports. I saw the intercepted messages. The war was not started by my people, nor yours. Someone else wanted us to destroy each other. Daniel felt a chill run down his spine. A war based on a lie. Billions had died. And for what? He clenched his jaw. If that's true, we need to expose this. Ralzek nodded. That is why I was left to die. My own people knew that I had uncovered the truth. They wanted me silenced. Daniel cursed. No wonder both sides were hunting them. Now they had two choices: run and die in the shadows, or fight to reveal the truth. Ralzek met Daniel's gaze. You saved me, human, and now I ask for your help. Will you stand with me, Daniel? Didn't hesitate. I'm in. But before they could make a plan, a new problem emerged. The broadcast of truth. Daniel hacked into an old comms tower connecting to a secure military channel. He uploaded the files. A red warning flashed on the screen. Intercepted transmission. Daniel didn't care. He sent it anyway. A moment later, the galaxy changed forever. Both human and Zarathian forces received the message. High-ranking generals, war councils, the public, everyone saw the truth. The war was never real. The real enemy, the Varax, had manipulated them from the start. Millions of lives lost, families shattered, planets burned. All because of a lie. The war was not about survival. It was about control, and now, that control was broken. Ralzek's last stand. As the galaxy reeled from the revelation, Daniel raced back to find Ralzek. The Zarathian warrior was barely alive, blood pooling around him. Daniel knelt beside him, pressing a hand to his wound. We did it. The truth is out. Ralzek's eyes flickered open. Weak, but proud. The war will end, he whispered. Daniel nodded. It has to. For the first time, a Zarathian and a human fought not as enemies, but as brothers. Ralzek gripped Daniel's arm. Then, my people will know I did not die a traitor. Daniel's jaw tightened. He wouldn't let this warrior's name be forgotten. You didn't just save your people, Ralzek. You saved all of us. A deep breath, a flicker of pride, then darkness. Ralzek's hand went still. Daniel clenched his fists. He had lost a friend, a warrior, a legend. But Ralzek's sacrifice had changed the course of history, a new era, or a new war. Days later, peace talks between humans and Zarathians began. The war was over. For the first time in decades, both species sat together, not as enemies, but as survivors. Daniel stood among them, his body bruised, his soul scarred, but alive. He had done the impossible. But deep in the farthest reaches of space, someone else was watching. The Varax. Their plans had been exposed. Their war had ended, but they were not finished. A shadow moved across the stars. A fleet bigger than anything the galaxy had ever seen. A whisper echoed in the void. Cold, calculated, merciless. The pawns have learned the truth. Now it is time for the kings to move. Final cliffhanger. The war was just the beginning. Sequel tease. The real enemy is coming. Will humanity and the Zarathians be ready? The end, for now.